Hello and welcome to another episode of SoFly. It is, it's August, but this show is, of course, coming out in September. We're very excited to be recording another episode. My name is Mitch, and of course, we've got Aldo.
Hey, everybody.
And we don't have Yilma again for this one, but that's because he's at his nephew's birthday party?
I think that's it, yeah.
Something like that.
Family first, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, we miss you, Yilma. Of course, on the last show you had a migraine. I don't know what's going on. Maybe Yilma's just quitting, and this is how we find out. We'll miss you. But anyways, we're very excited to be recording another show, and with a guest that we've wanted to have on for a little while now. So it's going to be a good chat today. Bill Spicer has been fishing for more than 50 years. He discovered fly fishing 35 years ago and has never looked back. Bill is an accomplished fly tyer, author, guide, lecturer, and teacher, and is an FFF certified master fly casting instructor. Of course, most all of you listening probably will know Bill as a host of the new Fly Fisher television show. I, for one, and I know Aldo too, has spent countless mornings as a youngin' watching the show and watching Bill chase fish all over the place, including our home province, which has been really special. And even to this day, of course, we follow along with all the adventures of the crews over at the new Fly Fisher. Bill is also a regular writing contributor to numerous magazines with his casting articles. He's a passionate angler and a fixture on most area streams and symposiums lecturing. He's got a great love for casting and would sometimes rather teach than fish. Bill's easygoing nature and his ways of making his students understand has given him a reputation as a teacher's teacher. He's extensively fished from Ungava Bay in northern Canada, the southern tip of Chile, but his love of stocking trout and cold water streams right here in southern Ontario and, of course, the eastern United States are his faves, and his specialty is migratory steelhead. Today, though, he is on SoFly. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here, man.
Oh, yeah,
It's a
thanks,
long
Bill.
time
This is an
coming.
honor.
Absolutely.
Well, don't swallow my head now. My neck's not big enough to hold it any longer. So.
No, man. I mean, it's true though. Like, yeah, although like before we obviously started recording, we were just chatting briefly about how, we watched the new Fly Fisher and watched you fish all the time, and it inspired us to do this podcast and make stuff around fly fishing as well, and just talk about local fishing. So yeah, we got nothing but love.
Great,
for all that you've
great.
done. Yeah.
Well, we're lucky to live in the province we do, because we have a lot of fishing in this province, and it's just not in southern Ontario, northern Ontario, northwestern Ontario. It's outstanding up there, just outstanding.
Yeah, it really is, and it's so fun too. Well, I mean, we just recently, like over the last few years doing this podcast, have discovered that there's like such a vast range of places to go in the province. Like, of course, Southern Ontario's been awesome. We're from Ottawa. That was awesome. But then, when you get up north, or like you're saying, like towards Algoma, like it's a totally different bag of beans.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You got bass fishing that will knock you out up there. We call it Trophy Alley. It goes from Spanish over to Thessalon. And smallmouth is crazy big there. And above Highway 17, there's no closed season.
Right on. Yeah, that's true.
So you can fish it right from ice out, which is fantastic when you see the giant fish cruising around and eating. So that's kind of cool.
Totally.
Right. Probably my favorite spot in Ontario is Sault Ste. Marie and the rapids of the St. Mary's. It's got everything. It's got everything. Any given time of year.
We're only a couple minutes in the show, and we've already got one of your favorites, which is favorites are a favorite of ours on the show. We love asking people's favorites, so we definitely want to talk more about Sault Ste. Marie, but the St. Mary's Rapids. But I guess first and foremost, where are you calling it from? Are you here in Southern Ontario?
I live in Hamilton. I'm born and bred in East Hamilton, and just developed a real love for fishing through my best friend. His name is Howie McIntyre. He lives in Alberta now, but him and I fished from when we were teenagers, and it took off for me like crazy. I was a nuisance to most people because all my conversations were revolved around fishing. So,
what age did you start fishing at?
I was a late bloomer. I didn't start until I was 18.
Okay.
I was too involved in girls and cars back then, so
Naturally.
Yeah. So when I picked up a fishing rod, and I can still remember the first big fish I ever hooked was on the Big Head River in Meaford.
Right on.
No way.
And
one of my favorite rivers.
My buddy was beside me. Howie was beside me. I hooked this fish. It went straight in the air. It was about a 10-pound steelhead. straighten my hook out, because I knew at that time nothing about drag systems or anything like that. I had it tightened right down, and so but
Yeah.
my friend Howie says to me, he says, "Bill, you should see the look on your face now," because my mouth was open, I was white as a sheet, and I went, "I've got to feel that again. I've got to feel that again." And then I just went to town, and then. Back then, we didn't have the internet, so I approached about everybody that was doing better than me on the river. And you know, out of all those people, I think I had one person ever not want to give me information. All the rest,
everybody else was
here,
willing to
try this,
Yeah.
And when I picked up fly fishing, I was on the Big Head River again. I seen a guy just killing the steelhead with flies, and I said, "What are you doing different?" And he showed me. Prince nymphs. I had no idea what they were. He gave me 3 of them. My first fish was a 12-pounder. My second fish was a 14-pounder, and the third fish was an 8-pounder. I lost all 3 flies, so I went to Canadian Tire. And I bought all the flies that had white wings, because that's all I saw in those Prince nymphs. They were dry flies, but I put them under an indicator. I started hitting fish.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning.
That's awesome. Bumblebee patterns all over the place.
That's
Canadian
awesome.
Tire bumblebee patterns, yeah.
I love that you brought up the big head. I mean, that's definitely been my, let's say river of late. Does that make any sense?
That's where I started fishing altogether. Yeah.
It's a cool place.
It's a really cool place. I really love the Beaver Valley, and
the people
and
are
that
so
area in
nice
general.
around there.
It's so beautiful around there, and you're right. The fishing is just. It can be really bonkers.
Yeah, if you get enough rain up there, it's like in southern Ontario we have Bronte Creek, which it's a trickle most summers, but if you get enough rain in the spring or in the fall, it fills up with steelhead.
Yeah,
but you got to have enough rain.
You got to have the rain. Yeah, I mean that's southern Ontario is very much guided by what fishery is in, I suppose.
Yeah.
But okay, so you started fly fishing in just, I guess, like around late high school, I suppose, right? 18.
Well, I started fishing. I started fly fishing 35 years ago. What was I making? About 86 or 87 around there.
And it was because of Howie. Howie got you into.
Howie got me into
fishing.
Hang out
with Howie?
Another friend of mine, you might have heard of him, Rick Warwood, started me fly fishing.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky and I worked together for almost 35 years.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
And we fished a lot together, a lot.
Do you still keep in touch with Howie?
Yes, I talk to him about once a month because he's out there. He's a type of guy that he wants to stay busy. He's been retired, and I said, "You'll never retire." So what he does is in his neighborhood, anybody needs anything fixing, they just supply the material. He'll fix it. Won't charge him nothing. He's a great guy.
Awesome.
He's just a great guy. And
sounds like
a great fisherman, and that's who I wetted a line with first. And we went for years up to Meaford every spring and fall.
That's cool.
That's
cool.
great.
Yeah, I always think about like old fishing friends, like, and if you keep in touch because they're kind of different friendships, like they're you think about them forever, That's cool.
Yeah, I don't know if I fish with anybody that I used to fish with in high school, but that's probably because I just don't live in Ottawa anymore. So were those steelhead on the Prince nymphs your first fish on the fly?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow,
cool. Very first fish.
Pretty cool first fish to
catch. He showed me how to hook them up, and I used a float at that time, but then I went over to an indicator and an actual fly rod after that. I had a float rod at the time.
Okay.
I was one of the first in Ontario to have float rod. 13-foot float rod and a single action reel.
So is that when float fishing was kind of like starting to take off?
Starting. Well, we actually started with small spinning reels on a float rod.
Right.
And had like 2-pound test, and you would hook up a lot, but you wouldn't land too many, but you'd hook up a lot because the steelhead are notoriously leader shy. So that's the way we handled it.
Yeah.
Now with fluorocarbon, you don't need to do that.
Yeah. The tech's come a long way.
Yeah, a long way. Okay. So then after that, you just like, sorry.
How did you meet Rick Warwood? How did that
start? We worked together.
Cool.
I've known him since 1977 or 78.
Okay, right on.
That's when we started working together, and we always hung out. And he was when I first met him, he was really into duck hunting.
Yeah.
And bit of a wild man when I met him. And then he discovered fly fishing, and we used to have lunch together at work, and he'd say, Bill, you got to try this. Because he knew I was crazy about fishing. Well, I tried it. And that was it. He gets credit for me starting fly fishing.
I mean, probably a lot of people, like Rick's, I used to see his flies in Fly Fusion and, see him casting at the Spay Claves and stuff.
He is a fine fly tiger.
Yeah, for real. Sorry, Aldo, what were we going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, so from that steelhead, I mean, obviously you were hooked, because how could you not be after a 12, 14, and 8-pound steelhead? Yes. What was the path after that? Did you get a fly rod and just start
I got a fly rod, and I used to go to Meaford with it, and I was the only one that had one at the time until, I don't know if you ever introduced him or not, John Volk.
Yep.
Okay, I ran into him up in Meaford. He come up to me because I was the only one besides him with a fly rod.
Right.
And that's when he told me he was going to open up his shop and everything like that. And that's how I got to meet John. And I used to be a fixture at his shop.
Yeah, we still haven't had John on the show, but we've heard so much about.
He'd be good to have
his legend.
I can put you in touch with him.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, like I know he guides off like in that area, and I've just heard so much about him.
Well, he guides full time.
Yeah.
But you could find a night like this, and he'd make time for you.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay, so you got into fly fishing. It just kind of hooked you. Where did you go from there in terms of? I guess what were you doing for work, and then how did the new fly fisher kind of become part of your life?
Well, I'm not a higher educated man, so I had a good job in the steel industry.
Yep.
And I knew I had a good job.
Yep.
And I stayed long enough for my pension. I retired at 55.
Nice.
And
nice.
With a full pension.
That's awesome.
So I was smart enough to stay like that.
Yeah.
And this place I worked at had really, really good benefits along with time off.
Yep.
So I had 7 weeks off. By the time I left there, I had 7 weeks a year holidays. And my wife would say to me, give me 2 weeks as a family vacation.
Right on.
The rest you can do what you want.
Yeah.
So I'd take that 5 weeks, and Colin and I would travel. I remember I went to Newfoundland and Labrador 7 weeks in a row.
Okay. Yeah,
wow.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah.
But how'd you meet Colin? So Colin's from Ottawa, right? How'd you guys link up?
And it goes through my wife again. My wife worked for Wilson's at the time in Toronto.
Oh, okay.
And Colin had heard about me because Rick and I were doing the circuit around doing shows and casting demos and teaching how to fly cast and that.
Yeah.
And he had heard about me and wanted to get in touch about doing a show.
Yeah.
So he called up Wilson's and said, do you know this guy? And she goes, yeah, I kind of know him. He's my husband. And that's how I met him. And I did a show. I did a steelhead show with him. And then I did a couples show, husband and wife show.
Yep.
And then he seen that I've always been comfortable talking in front of people and that. I have no qualms as long as I know what I'm talking about. Like when I get up, when I get up and talk about fishing in a lecture or anything like, I'm just shooting the breeze. That's all I'm doing. I got nothing written down.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure of what I'm talking about. I've done it long enough.
Totally.
So he saw that I was comfortable in front of the camera and that. And he says, "Do you want to try one, Bill?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, we're about a week or two away from the first salmon runs on the credit."
Yeah.
So he sent a cameraman down, and we timed it perfect. 2 days after a rain, a unbelievably big run come in, and I swung flies for Chinooks, and then I caught a 35-pounder on an indicator and a nymph.
That's so sick.
and just grew from there. And he said he took me and Ian James on at first.
Yeah.
You know, Ian couldn't give him the time that I could because Ian was making his living at guiding and his art, and just didn't have the time. But I did, so I just stayed with it.
That's
and cool. we Colin and I started doing the show together, and then it went to 26 weeks. And my God, it was hard at first But then
Right.
Phil Rowley come on with this. Brian
Yep.
Shan came on with this.
Yeah.
You know, and it got easier then.
Yep.
But as I've got older, it's getting a little harder. So that's why you see newer hosts now, because my
Yep.
legs are getting old, and
Mm-hmm.
and they got young legs and can run up mountains now.
So you and Colin like hit it off pretty much right away. Like I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Colin's such a likable
Yeah.
guy. Like
Yeah.
you know, when we met him in Timmins, it was like we were like,
Yeah.
Colin's awesome. Like we didn't know because we didn't know him personally, and then we hung out and we're like, this guy's he's so fun.
Yeah.
When I
Yeah.
met him, he was still in the Navy, and
Right.
Right.
he was lieutenant commander, I think.
Jeez,
Which,
yeah, wow.
if it was in the Army, equal to 1-star general, or
Damn,
Yeah.
that's he had quite a high rank.
badass.
Yeah, he was in Cambodia. Yeah,
Wow.
he went over there. Seen a lot of bad stuff, and
Yeah.
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 And if you know
That's pretty
Colin,
wild.
that kind of stuff stayed with him for the longest time.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, he spoke
Yeah.
about that on our podcast.
Yeah,
about,
he,
you know, fly fishing, finding peace through fly
Yeah.
fishing,
Yeah,
totally.
absolutely. That's it.
I want to touch on one quick thing. You spent so when you first met Colin, or like when you were adventuring with Colin, before the show came along, you spent 7 weeks straight in Newfoundland.
Yeah, I got extra time off. I took some extra time because he asked me, and I went from one lodge to another
Okay.
each week. Newfoundland and
film it?
Labrador. We did Newfoundland, then we flew over to Labrador and did that. And
Oh, amazing.
I'm lucky. But you know what? I was never more sick of turkey dinners in my life, because every week I got a full turkey dinner. And I've never even been a big fan of it. I'd rather have a ham at Christmas time rather than a turkey. But yeah,
Hey.
Absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
they feed you well.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
for sure. Oh, that's really cool. So I guess the casting and the fly casting instruction predated the new
Yes,
fly
yes,
fisher?
yes.
Okay.
Because
cool.
I was teaching before. I'm through John Volk's shop, and I wanted the credentials to go along with what I was claiming I could do in teaching. So I got certified first,
Yep.
and then 4 years later, I went and got my master's in 2000. And
Oh, right on.
Rick and I got our masters together.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And then Rick took it a little farther. He went with the two-handed stuff. I never got the bug like he did. I have a two-handed
two-handed?
rod. I know how to cast it, but it's not my favorite. It's just I don't have that bug. But a lot of guys do, and more power to them.
Yeah, lots of anglers picked up the spay thing, you know.
I use a switch rod for steelhead, but I
Yeah,
nymph
okay,
with
yeah.
it. I like a long rod nymphing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
totally.
with you on that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
the switch rod's becoming a favorite of mine. FFI, where did you go to get FFI certified? Did that happen in Canada?
It happened in
FFF.
Michigan. Both
Michigan,
places
yeah.
were down at Scientific Angler. It was a guy, Bruce Richards, was one of the board of governors. He was the line designer at Scientific Anglers.
Oh, cool.
And so my first one, they had a fountain in front of Scientific Anglers, and I did my test right there on the pool on the fountain. And and then when I wanted my master's, you have to have two guys. And for the world of me, I can't think of the other fella's name was, but he was really stickler. Oh man, he was a stickler for back loops. Everything you want to see, tiny back loops. So
Okay.
it took me 2 times to do it. The first time I didn't quite make it, and Bruce told me where I need to improve, and I went back, and 6 months later I went back and was able to pass. So Rick did too, yeah.
So to get FFF certified, they're basically just paying, like, are they just watching your form and like taking points?
There's a test, and actually there's a written test,
Okay.
an oral test where they fire questions at you.
Mm.
Yep.
And it's like situations. What would you do here? Da 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 da.
Yeah.
What's the diameter of a normal tapered needle?
Okay.
Okay.
That at the butt section.
That type of stuff.
And
That is awesome. I would
Yeah.
love to do that just to see how bad I would do.
but then
I would do so
the,
bad.
The certification just to be a teacher isn't nearly
Yeah.
as tough as the masters, because with being
Right.
a master, you have the privilege of testing other people. And Rick and I tested a lot of people back in the early part
Yeah.
of the century. Then I got away from it, and I just didn't have time for everything. So,
Yeah.
but
For
I
sure.
wanted the credentials. Getting back to why you asked, why did I get certified? I wanted the credentials to go along because I was teaching a lot of people back then, and I just thought, for my schools, if I have the credentials, people will come to my schools.
Yeah, well, they'll leave with like a more informed, like professionally taught casting. If that's what they're after, which is super cool.
Yeah.
I've always like been curious about FFF, like casting instruction and being certified, like how that works. That's interesting. Yeah.
Just go on the
so-
site there, and I think there's even a copy of what the performance test that you got to
sweet.
do.
Okay, well, Aldo, we're gonna ask each other that after this, and
See how we
see
do.
who can win. That's cool. Okay, so when you started New Fly Fisher, then you were just kind of being sent all over. Was it mainly just Canada?
No,
Canadian
the actual
locations?
first trip I ever went to was Montana.
Oh no!
Oh,
way.
right
I
on.
got to fish all the big rivers there. It was wonderful. It was wonderful.
That must have been that must have been an awesome
It was.
experience to be like first trip Montana.
Montana,
It's like
yeah.
what?
And then
Yeah, that must
I
have
went to Utah, Wyoming.
Sweet.
I'm just trying to think.
I mean, like all the
Yeah,
best
yeah.
places. to
Short
go
of
fly.
Idaho. I wanted to go to Idaho. I haven't had a chance to go there yet, but
But what was it like? I mean, you're just like you're working at your steel job, and then you're kind of moonlighting as this like fly, angling, going all over these cool destinations. What was that like? What did that feel?
well,
like?
it was really busy at that time because I still had to
Right.
think about making a living, and not
Yeah.
only do I get to go in these excursions, but I also have to what's called a shot listing. And for the people at home, that just means I look at every clip and I got to write it out on Microsoft Word exactly what happened in
Yeah.
that, so you can put a script together. I have to do that too. Every show that I do,
Right.
I put a script together for it, and that became really busy when I was still working. It's not so bad
Yeah,
now,
of course.
but yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
That's interesting, and because we go on shoots, we we produce content for lodges and stuff as well, and sometimes we find we write scripts, and obviously when it comes to fishing, that doesn't really go to script usually. So it's and then
Well, the
have
way
to
we do it
go
is-
back,
is-
like go back to think
Yeah.
almost
What
like a
we
journal.
do is a little different than what you do. We go and do our best, and if you produce enough fish, you can make a
Yeah.
show. And we do
Right,
the
yeah, script
instruction
backwards.
is also part of our show. We go and if you catch enough fish,
Yeah.
you can do a show because we do instruction too. So
Yeah.
you throw it. The way I like to do it is get there, tell where you are,
Mhm.
try to catch a fish right. If you're lucky enough, you catch a fish right away,
Mhm.
and then another instruction, equipment, flies we talk about, and then other fish, and then you build it up like that. So the script is put together later. We don't, other than I have an idea what
An idea, yeah.
if you're steelheading, okay, I'm gonna have to swing flies, or I'm gonna have to indicator fish. So I want some tight shots of the indicator,
Yeah.
tight shots of me mending the line, tight shots
Yeah,
of swinging a fly and what you do.
yeah, for sure. And they piece it
Do
all
the GoPro underneath the water and get the fly swinging by, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, just ensure you get all that B-roll and just
Yeah.
get your little scavenger hunt of shots.
Yeah.
Have you had many moments of outtakes throughout the series and filming? Like, what are some of those moments like? Because we have a ton.
Some X-rated comments. So I remember I went to Newfoundland and
Yep.
I fished the Serpentine River, which is probably one of the more beautiful places you're ever going to go to in your life. It's
Yeah.
gorgeous. And the fish had been in for a while. And one thing about Atlantic salmon fishing is the longer the fish are in there, the less they want to rise and hit.
Right.
And you can only take them by skittering a fly across the top. They They don't like you putting a fly down and getting it near the bottom. They want it up the top. I worked all week, and the final day, I hooked into a good fish. I fought it, and it went into some bushes right on the shore, did a header right into it, and broke off, and I lost it. I lost it on camera. So I didn't, not thinking about it at all. I went back, and my cameraman, who's quite a jokester, he's there editing shows, and he puts that particular clip on, and all the girls at the office heard me let out all the swear words, and I come in there, and the first thing they said to me, "We thought you were a gentleman. We didn't know you talked like that, Bill." I went, "What are you talking about?" And that's when my cameraman goes click, and you hear me going, "Oh, Jeremy."
Freaking out. That's awesome, man.
Like, what do you think? I work at a steel mill.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I mean, aside from the obvious of like technological advances, how have you seen, like in cameras or whatnot? Like, have you like what am I trying to ask? I'm trying to ask. So what are do you find it easier to produce a show as the years went along because of the experience you had, or maybe harder?
No, it was actually easier before when we had tape.
Oh yeah, okay.
Shot listing was easy. You just run the tape back, fast forward back wherever you wanted.
Right.
With clips, and especially when they're in 4K, I have to convert all the clips to smaller files, so my computer will run them. I don't have a big computer like they have up in GenCore.
Yeah,
right.
I have a good computer, but not a big one like them.
For sure.
And so I have to convert it down.
Yeah,
that takes time.
Yeah, and then click through and watch
all
the clips, right? Because it's just like, with digital, you can kind of just film any moment.
You can kind of get to overshooting sometimes.
Yeah. And that's another thing, little 10 seconds there, and you got to watch them because you don't know what's going to happen. Fish could rise in that 10 seconds, and you want your audience to see that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I know I mentioned we love favorites earlier on, and we love asking, like, what's your favorite this and that? I'd love to know what your favorite episode has been doing. If you had to pick one of your episodes as like this is the one, what would it be?
No. And it's not an exotic. It'll be 4 or 5 years ago with John Volk steelheading on the Saugeen. I hit it exactly right. It had been raining. Yeah. It'd gone down to a mist. Yeah. It was cold, November. And over a 2-day period, I think I hooked into 13 or 14 fish. And my cameraman was right on. Got every hookup. Was in front. The fish were jumping right in front of the camera. It was the best show I ever did.
That's amazing.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was so easy to write, and it turned out wonderful. Some brook trout. 2 years ago, I fished at. I can't think of the name of the lodge, but I had dry fly fishing for 6 and 7 pound speckled trout.
Jeez! Oh my god! Yeah. Wow. And that was in Ontario?
No, it was in Labrador.
Oh, right.
Okay,
yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah. I was gonna be like, well, it's got to be the Nipigon or
something else. And Nipigon has always produced well for me. That's a good place. Like I said, my favorite spot to fish is Sault Ste. Marie in the rapids of the St. Mary's. They've got the longest steelhead run in the province. You can be the third week of June and still be hitting steelhead.
It's wild.
And I mean a lot of them. Yeah. And when they finish, then the Atlantic salmon come in. Yeah. Because the water they're in the harbor, and that hot weather hits and the water turns over, they head up into the rapids by the numbers, and that's in August.
Yeah.
So you go from that, and then you got pink salmon show up first in beginning of September, and then your Chinooks come in, and they got a really, really good run at Coho. Really good run. Cool. And they have some resident rainbows there that you can get up 8 pounds, 9 pounds. Residents. Jeez. Wild fish right there. Yeah.
That is cool.
And then it all starts all over again the next spring. So, it's got everything.
So you're a migratory fish kind of guy.
Oh, I've always been that way. I like big fish. I like the way they fly. They fight.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Atlantic salmon, but I don't get to do that as much as steelhead. But
Right.
Atlantic salmon's the same thing. You hook into an Atlantic salmon, you're gonna remember that for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's cool. I still have to do it. I still got to do it. I haven't done it.
Oh,
Atlantic
I
salmon.
know you got to get out there, Mitch.
maybe this October. You know. I don't know.
Yeah, there
We'll
you
see.
go.
Um,
It's cool. This might turn into a bit of a Ontario love fest,
Yeah.
but that's okay.
I can talk
think
about
what-
other places too. Yeah.
No. We're
we love
we
talking
love talking about
Ontario.
Ontario. Did you ever find like while you're producing the show, like, I guess how did the audience change throughout the from I guess like when it started to now? Is it skewing a lot of Americans or is it a lot of Canadians?
Oh, I'm
starting
better
to
known
like
in New
movies?
York City than I am in Hamilton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we got on the local channel there a number of years back, and people started following. They have 10 million people there.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
whenever we used to do the trade shows out there in Boston
Mhm.
and then in Somerset, New Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
and I was knocked away by how well I was known out there. I had no idea that I was that well
Wow.
known in New York City. Yeah.
It's just because the airplay, I guess. Like everybody.
Yeah, everybody's watching it, and there, over the years, all the fly fishing shows, there's very few left, very
Yeah.
few.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
For sure.
some people like you get the YouTubers that they just put a GoPro on their hat and try to produce that. That's fine, it'll satisfy some people, but production value is not there. But that we
Yeah.
try to give you the nicest produced show and real fishing. Like I show my failures, and we've even had a few shows where we're gonna say, just didn't happen for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We've had that. You put enough content in, and people still appreciate it.
For sure. I mean, it's fishing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's good to say, like, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't work out.
And
Sometimes
you
you
don't
hit
catch
bad
every fish
conditions.
either.
No,
Totally.
definitely
Might lose
not.
fish. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just the way it goes. I mean, yeah. No, the new fly fish has been on for. a long time.
Since 2000, I started in 2002.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, that's a long run.
Yeah,
It's a long running show. You know, like, yeah, it's cool.
yeah.
It's cool. I mean, like,
We
it
outlived
took up-
everybody else.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, especially Outdoor Life Network in Canada. Anyway, we didn't get the the Flip Fowler to the Lefty Cray shows.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was awesome. And you've outlasted Flip as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's cool watching the journey of that show, and now Alex Parks, who's a friend of ours and has been on this show, and then when she started co-hosting the show
Yeah.
every once in a
Yeah.
while, like, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool seeing people from the community, from the Ontario community
Yeah.
anyway, like represented. I don't know,
Totally.
it's neat.
No, Joe Humphreys, I've got to know him through the show. And he's a big
Mm.
fan of our show.
Yeah.
That's cool.
You know, like that's a legend to me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, a big time
Mm-hmm.
legend. Yeah. Well, actually, that brings up a good point. Where did you, maybe it was Joe Humphreys, but are there a few characters from your trips that you have some some poignant moments that made you a better angler? Like, can you remember like one or two where like, I filmed here and I never thought of this and I learned way more
I
by
had
doing that show.
when I first started learning how to spay cast, I had guys help me there. The guides, certain guides, some of them are not good, but others give you great instruction. Especially Atlantic salmon fishing, I got a lot of help from the guides because I was green as anything when I first went there, and they help you that way. What I found, there's one guy in my life, and I wish he had lived long enough to get him on the show. You might have heard of him, Ted Knott. He was my mentor. He was the guy that taught me how to steelhead properly.
Yeah.
And because I sat and watched him one day, I had 2 fish for the day, and he had like 12. And I'm going, what is he doing? So I just sat and watched him. And then I approached him, and Ted was such a gentleman. He said, "Oh yeah, I'll help you." And then when I wanted to start casting lessons and learn how to cast so I could get certified, he's the one that helped me the most. So Ted was a wonderful guy.
And Ted was an angler just down here in Southern Ontario.
Yeah. But he also taught fly fishing at Mohawk College.
Oh, cool.
That's super rad. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, teaching fly fishing at college? Cool.
Yeah.
Wish they had that when we were younger.
Yeah, for sure. So are you fishing these days, Bill? Like what's like the next kind of thing for you fishing wise?
I went Atlantic salmon fishing this year, and we did some preseason bass where I got a 7-pounder smallmouth.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was that holy, Yeah. I did. Oh, I did Friends of the Grand on the Grand River, and we got into some big fish there. I didn't. My guides did, and my partner did. That was there. I got stockies, little stockies. These guys, they hooked into some big fish. So it was nice, right in Fergus. So.
Yeah, it seems like a big fish year on the Grand River. A lot of guides we know as well are having are their clients and them. They're having a wicked year on the Grand
because the crowds aren't there no more. People, the fair weather fishermen, or the fisherman that wants to catch 10 fish a day, he's not getting them there, so he goes to a stock pond, and that's the way he wants to do it. It's only the true diehards that are staying and properly releasing fish without hurting them, and it pays out.
Right, it's like these waves of anglers. Like, one year it's busy, and then next year it's not. That kind of thing. Is that kind of how you've seen the rivers down here over the years? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you were fishing these rivers, a long time ago. What was it like back then compared to now?
In the 70s, when I fished a big head, they had steelhead runs like salmon runs, where they're all over the place. You could walk across them almost, because there was this mass stocking program in the Great Lakes, along with splake, and the splake used to run up the rivers too. So that's how we got started.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it was crazy good. And you didn't have the people. You just didn't have the people. When I first started fishing the Grand River in the late 80s, Rick and I would be going there. We'd maybe see 1 or 2 anglers for the whole day. Not like that no more. But that's the way it is. These places get better known. And really, it's not such a bad thing. You go find another place. Because I'm of the opinion that a river without friends is a river dead. So you gotta put up with it, and you gotta take care of it, and that's just the way it is. So.
And hopefully over time people just develop better etiquette, and maybe more people on the river is not such a big deal, because it's like if you show up and there's like a bunch of people there and then you leave, and if everyone had that same mentality.
That's one thing about the Grand River. When you're fishing there, anybody that I've ever had come around me always say, "Do you mind if I go behind you and fish up here, or can I fish over?" Cool. Yeah, no problem. Ask me. You can fish beside me. I don't care. Just don't come in and crowd me. No.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think things are going to change for the better, and I feel like they kind of already are. Like, I don't know. My experiences on rivers, like people are usually like pretty good with to me. Like, sometimes maybe you see people that are, I don't know, doing something that you're like, I don't know, or of course the province still faces all kinds of problems with things like poaching and maybe not enough conservation officers and things.
That's
like
always
that.
been the case.
And
it gets down.
Yeah, maybe that's something that's got to change.
Yeah, budgets are being cut all the time, and
for sure,
is what you got to live with. So the only thing I care about is I don't care about any method anybody uses to fish, as long as they follow the rules. If you follow, I don't care. Sure. Don't take more than your limit. Don't snag fish. That's the big one in the fall.
Yeah, totally.
So.
Yeah, the fall we definitely see a lot of bromeliad in the fall. I don't know what.
People see the migrating salmon and they just can't help themselves.
They lose it.
They just lose their minds. Yeah,
they go crazy. Yeah.
Well, seeing that I know it's August now, and kind of weird to start thinking about it, I don't really want to think about it getting colder quite yet, but seeing as this show comes out September 15th, we're probably starting to think about steelhead.
Oh yeah,
Bill, how do you?
The rain that we're having today is gonna help the rivers. You're in Toronto.
Yeah, true.
You're getting the same rain as me. It's pouring in Hamilton right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually been a good precipitation year in general. Like everything's green.
We'll have a good fall. We'll have a good fall.
Really brown. Oh yeah, I'm excited. Mm-hmm. How do you aside from tying flies, like what do you like doing, or like what are your favorite ways to get like? How do you prepare for your steelhead season? Like are there,
I generally raid everybody else's box, fly box. Because they always got interesting patterns. They go, well, let me try that one, and they do the same amount. I'll open my box up and go, what do you want, And we exchange like that. The tying, I'm not as active as I used to be tying. I used to do the full dress salmon flies at one time, but I just
wow.
Well, part of it is I have Parkinson's disease, and that really limits to what you can do. I can tie an egg pattern. That's about it. But that's all I care about in the spring and the fall. Tie me some egg patterns.
Yeah, hell yeah. What else do you need?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Steelhead. I'm excited.
I'm excited.
I've recently. I'm glad you brought up the Big Head. It's been a river I've just really fell in love with in the past 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've been fishing the Credit and the Grand.
Yeah.
It's just such a special place up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Beaver too, further up in by the ski resorts and that before September 30th, there is some really really outstanding water up there, water up there, and rated right by I'm trying to think of the name of the ski resort that's Blue Mountain, right across the street from Blue Mountain. There, the Beaver River's there. You can access the river there. It's public land. Go fish there. You're gonna be pleasantly surprised at the size of the brown trout in there.
There you go.
Oh.
You heard it here first.
There you go. That's awesome.
I love it.
What a great, what a great area that is.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Bill, looking back at the show and stuff like that, and is there anything you would have done differently, like in retrospect, or not?
Not really. The opportunity that I've been given by Colin is just I've appreciated it every day. I've learned a pile of things. Like I said, I don't have a university education, but I can write a script for television.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Who'd have thunk it? I'm a steel worker that I'm not dumb, but that's all I did. And I learned that over the years. Have I made mistakes? Not in my fishing career. In my life, I like everybody else, you make mistakes. But I've been pretty happy with things the way they've turned out. In the 20 years or 21 almost years that I've been doing the show, I think I've had 3 that I couldn't put up because there was no fish and it was just really bad. And 3 in all that time.
That's pretty amazing.
I generally managed to pull it out on the last day or something like that. There was one place I went, it was bass fishing, and we had front after front after front go through, and anybody that knows bass fishing, that's just a bad thing for bass. Until the last day, and I found a hump with a bunch of fish on it, and I made the show. I was able to get enough for the show. So, but like I said, I've been pretty lucky. Where I'm just trying to think. I've just enjoyed about everywhere I've gone. Something unique about everywhere. Pike fishing. People don't appreciate pike fishing. My goodness, it's so much fun. Go up to Nipigon, Lake Nipigon. I did a week of pike fishing there. I never got a fish under 35 inches. Not one. The average was 40, 42 inches. Average. I'm not kidding. I've got it on film. Nipigon, Lake Nipigon. I never knew that. It's a huge lake. You got to get a guide for it because if you don't know the lake, it shallows up.
Yeah, it's formidable.
It's up and down all over, and you got to know where the lanes are. And but wow, we went out and camped on an island, so we didn't even have the bugs, didn't have to worry about bears or anything like that. And right across from the island was this lagoon type of bay, full of pike. It was huge. And then we also got a bunch of brook trout, speckled trout. That they got big ones there. And then we had the show done in 3 days, and we were there for 5. I spent the next 2 days trolling around for lake trout with the guy had downriggers on his big boat, and I hadn't done that in years, and I enjoyed myself thoroughly. Got it like a 22 pounder. Cool. That was cool.
Yeah,
that was really cool. I hadn't done that. Now I don't want a steady diet of that, but that was fun. I hadn't done it since Rick and I used to do it years ago.
Yeah. It's cool what things in life can do when you just kind of embrace them. Like something like fly fishing had you learning how to write scripts, and it's taking you on all these cool adventures. You know, like what does it kind of like represent to you now, fly fishing? And I guess there's been different stages in your life. At this point, what does it kind of like mean to you?
It's been a huge part of my life. I mean, a huge part of my life, and I'm lucky to have a wife that understands. She doesn't stand in the way at all of anything I do. She's proud of me being on TV and that. So that helps. I'm just extremely proud of what I've done over the years. Extremely proud of the show. If you look at the original shows that we did in the beginning to what we do now, it's night and day, and you're going, wow, did we ever learn a lot over the years? And Colin's been the driving force of that. Now we have another partner in Mark Melnick. Mark is one of the best fishermen I've ever fished with. He's got so much knowledge from being young. He really does.
That's cool. Yeah, we got to talk to Mark. But I mean, you totally should be proud. You should be proud of what you've done because it's super cool.
It's no small feat.
I've been lucky. I've been able to live a rich man's life without being rich.
Nothing wrong with that.
There we go.
I love that. Okay, well, Bill, we're at that point in the show where we've got 5 more questions left. It's the same 5 questions we ask every guest. It's a little segment we call Mitchie's Fishy's 5.
There's 5 questions, and his name is Mitch.
That's right. It's just like
we don't overthink things here.
Okay, so they're just kind of more general fly fishing questions. And the first one we're going to ask you is if you had to pick a favorite fish, what would it be and why? What is your favorite?
Steelhead.
Yeah, steelhead. I knew you were going to say steelhead.
They just
what about steelhead?
And it's not even netting the fish and seeing the fish. It's the first initial when you set the hook and that the rod goes woo, 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 and then you see the fish come out of the water. That's it for me right there. That is just it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good point. There's nothing quite like that first run of that steelhead. You know?
And that's what I cut my teeth on was steelhead. So they've always, it's been my go-to
Nothing
fish.
gets you going like hooking a steelhead when it's like the fishing's kind of slow and you finally hook one.
And you're down up until you hook that fish, and then you're walking on air. You go, oh yeah, this is a great day.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, completely changes the day. Yeah. I love that. That's great. Okay, if you could fish anywhere in the world right now, assuming it's going to be the best fishing ever, where would you go and why? Anywhere in the world.
Wow, Chile. Fishing in the Andes was... they've got some majorly big brown trout down there, and they also have, believe it or not, rivers that have Atlantic salmon in them. I never knew that at all. Never knew that, but they do.
Yeah, that's...
But
that's
the brown trout fishing there, and they get beetles like that big patch, and the brown trout eat them.
Yeah.
And so you're fishing Chernobyl ants this big on top, and fish will come up and eat them. It just blows me away. Yeah.
That's amazing. Like Rapala-sized flies for fishing the Andes.
Chile, Patagonia area, it was beautiful. It's beautiful. Nice, wonderful people, warm. everywhere you want. They want to feed you lamb.
Yeah.
So it was cool. It was really cool. That I go back for.
I could dig that. I could dig that. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like an adventure, you know. Okay, number 3 is, what is one of your best or favorite fishing memories? If you had to pick a favorite fishing memory, what would you pick from the vault of all the memories? Which I'm sure there's a lot of good fishing memories.
When I was in Labrador at Flowers River, which is the northernmost scheduled river in Labrador, I was fishing a softer rod, and I was having a real time trying to get to the fish. What had happened, we saw it as we were coming up in the canoes. A bear had crossed right where the run was, pushed all the fish over to the one side. So I'm trying to get it, and I'm coming up 5-10 feet short every time, and there was a rising fish, and this fish was rising. I went back to my boat, and I had another spare rod, and it was just a cheap rod, but it was stiffer. And I threw that on with a different line, and my first cast, I put the dry fly there, and the camera was tight on the fly when the fish went like that. And it was a 20-pound Atlantic salmon, and that remains in my memory for a long, long time. That's probably my highlight. And along with dry fly fishing for brook trout. Oh my goodness!
Yep.
Yeah, in Labrador. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Eh? Tons of fish, tons of action, beautiful fish.
There's so many fish that, I love smallmouth fishing. I love pike fishing. Muskie I'm not crazy about because people think that they're such a hardy fish. They're not. If you don't handle a muskie right, they die real quick.
Yeah. Right.
And the fight is generally, you might get a couple leaps, but it's generally short. You come in. Right. Not like a pike. A pike will run, put you in your back, and before you know it. So that's my opinion.
That's interesting.
People, it's just my opinion.
I like that. Hot take. It's
no, it's good.
I
I think, that, and I don't know. Pike are just so much more agreeable.
and everywhere. Yeah.
And if you're going to eat fish, eat a pike because they are delicious. They are delicious.
Yeah.
Every bit as good as walleye, as far as I'm concerned. Every bit.
Yeah. Okay, I love that. It's a good fish right here. Okay, number 4. We kind of talked about this a little bit, but why do you fly fish? What keeps you going out there again and again to do it, apart from a show?
I just I got the fishing bug when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And it just never went away. It got stronger and stronger and stronger. To this day, I get excited if something comes up and grabs my fly.
Mm-hmm.
I land the fish. I get the chills. Still to this day. Now, I don't have the drive I used to have to be out in the river 24/7. I choose my times now. I've learned some wisdom over the years. There's a lot of times you're wasting your time. Come back in an hour or 2 hours, or maybe tomorrow, you've had too much rain. You look at the conditions, that. Whereas when I was younger, I didn't. I just wanted to fish.
Yeah, you just be out there all the time.
Yeah.
It's like that unwavering excitement.
Yeah.
I totally get that. It's just
and I'm a little more cautious now because you get to my age, you go for a few more swims than other guys do.
Sure.
And swimming isn't fun when it's cold.
No way. Definitely not. Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's great. Okay, the last Mitchie's Fishes 5, number 5, is what fly pattern represents you best and why? If you were a fly, what would you be?
Prince nymph.
Which fly pattern?
Prince nymph.
Nice.
Okay.
Prince
Love
nymph.
that. Okay, why?
A Prince nymph has caught me more fish in my career than any other fly. Prince nymph. Yeah, they're an all-around great fly. I have them in right from size 20 to size 6.
Yep.
and all everywhere in between. So you just got to pick it, and all fish seem to like it. You can swing it, you can indicator fish with it, you can Euro fish with it, you can do it all. And Prince Nymph is just there.
I love it, man. Yeah, it's a good looking fly too.
Oh yeah,
it's a classic.
It's a classic pattern.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I love it. That's it. That's Mitch's Fishies 5, and that's like the show, man.
That's the show, Bill.
Bill, it's been
very much.
a blast just getting to pick your brain and hear about the show and your perspective on fishing and all that kind of stuff. We hope you've enjoyed it as well. And,
I do. This has been fun. This has been fun, guys. I'd do it again for you. No problem. Yeah,
right on.
I love it, man.
Email me.
Actually,
I got your email. I'll put you in contact with John Volk, and I'll put you in contact with Mark.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that'd be
awesome,
great.
yeah.
Yeah, we'd love to have them on the show, and it would be awesome if one day we could even share the water together. That'd be super fun.
Yeah.
It'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bill, I mean, I think most people know where to find the show, but if you want to let our listeners know where to find the New Fly Fisher,
if you go to our website, newflyfisher.com, it'll tell you every station we're on, but we're still on PBS. We're on the Outdoor Channel, but mostly, like yourself, it's YouTube. Go to our YouTube, New Fly Fisher YouTube, sign up, and every show, I think from season 3 on, is there.
Okay.
You can find everything you want.
I've been watching the old shows.
Yeah.
More than the new ones. I'm like, I think
did you see the ones before I was gray? I had some, like when I was in Montana, when I had dark beard and I had hair. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something like there's a fun little romantic quality to those early shows that I really, really like.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. It reminds me of like when I started fly fishing, I think. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a warmness to it,
Oh, great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love that.
Well,
Bill, thanks again. Yeah, man, much appreciate you coming on and taking the time tonight to chat. We hope you have a great rest of your summer, and yeah.
Thanks a lot. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Take care.
All right.
Take care.